Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet. Colombian presidential candidate Miguel Uribe Turbe was in critical condition in a hospital after being shot while campaigning in the country's capital of Bogota. Uribe Turbe, a 39-year-old senator from the conservative Center Democratic Party, was attacked during a speech. In a span of 8 seconds, 10 bullets were shot at him, of which 2 struck his head and 1 wounded his knee. He had to undergo emergency surgery and is currently in a critical condition. In other images, he appears as slumped against the hood of a white car, smeared with blood, as a group of men try to hold him. The government of leftist President Gustavo Petro said it categorically and forcefully condemned the attack on Uribe during the campaign event in the west of the capital. The question that comes up is who's behind the assassination bid and what to make out of something like this. A supporter at the campaign caught the moment of the assassination bid. 8 bullets were fired in a span of 10 seconds. Take a look at what really went down.
Segundo, salud mental. El principal problema en Bogotá, en Colombia.
All right, let's talk about this and get some perspective. Joining us on the show is Major General A.K. Sivaj, former Chief of the Territorial Army. Ambassador Deepak Vora, former diplomat, also with us on the program. Mr. Manan Dwivedi, Foreign Affairs expert, joining us on the program as well. Sumit Peer, Senior Political Commentator, also with us on the show. Ambassador Vora, as a diplomat, I'm sure you're aware that Colombia is not a country that is for the faint of heart. It is the same land where Pablo Escobar came from. It is a country which is run by cartels. It perhaps is also one of those very few countries where the government has itself said that they really cannot do much about the crime situation because it's so deeply rooted in every sector and sect of Colombia. But what do you make of the audacity which has been shown here to shoot and try and kill a presidential candidate? This is a first, I think, that has happened in Colombia, or perhaps for that matter, anywhere else in the world. I remember something similar happening to Benazir Bhutto in 2000s, but after that, since then, this is the first precedent that comes to my mind, sir.
Well, thank you very much. You're a foreign service kid, so you understand this, Mr. Malhotra. And I see that we have General Sivaj, we have Sumit Peer and Mr. Dwivedi. Their collective knowledge is much greater than them. By the way, I've been to that country, stunningly beautiful. I'm not just talking about the women, but about the country itself, Colombia. Now, what ails Colombia? I spoke to one of the former ministers a little while ago after I was invited to your show. And they said that it's a 50-50 chance unless he is evacuated to the United States. Because medical facilities in Bogota, where he is at the moment, are extremely limited. Either that happens, or if he stays behind in Colombia, then he'll probably be paralyzed for life. But he's out of the running in any case. That is very clear. So crime is very high in Colombia. They have the second largest number of internally displaced persons of any country in the world. Corruption, drug trafficking. Remember when I was in Mali, there used to be these flights bringing Colombian cocaine. It was known as air cocaine. And the interesting thing is, some years ago, the plane landed in Mali in a desert. You couldn't take off, so they blew up the aircraft. And by the way, the pilot was from your neighbor, Afghanistan. So everybody was making money in that air cocaine business that was going on. Now, we've had a lot of assassinations, political assassinations in Colombia. 2 of the most important reasons for political violence in that country, apart from the Fuerzas Armadas, the FARC fellows and the National Liberation Army of Colombia, which have been very active. They even kidnapped that French Colombian politician, I think Ingrid Betancourt. It was in the early 2000s and she was released later. She was also a presidential candidate. So what happens here is that because of drug trafficking, because of corruption, because of lack of effective governance, and more than anything else, the interference of that big bad fellow to the north called the United States and the multinational corporations, Colombia is a country, but it's not a place that you'd want to visit too often because security is at a premium. Several prominent politicians, including a former president, I forget the name, I think it was, I've forgotten the names, I think Galan or somebody, were assassinated over there. So this kind of thing will go on. And what I make of this is that the sins of the past are now coming back to haunt Colombia. The hens are coming home to roost. This is not the last assassination that we are going to see. FARC may have signed a peace deal. This is the revolutionary army who are fighting for the liberation of Colombia. So they say. This is not the last time. They've signed a peace deal, but they're going to continue. So my own understanding of this is that this was drug money involved. I think this guy had been talking about dealing with drug trafficking and so on. I say you don't do these things in a country 50% of whose GDP comes from drug trafficking. Where he did it, where he's paying the price. I just hope that he survives. I hope he recovers. But what this former minister told me, who was also, by the way, in hiding because he's been threatened, he said that it's not possible that he will be back to normal. So there we are. So this is Colombia. Welcome to the world of Medellin cartel, Cali cartel, and all the wretched cartels in the world. You're welcome, sir.
You're absolutely right, sir. General Sivach, your thoughts on what's happened over here. At this point in time, the presidential candidate is fighting for his life. The state of affairs in Colombia has always been on tenterhooks. And the government themselves in the past have been very patchy about dealing with these cartels. What do you make of what's happened over here, and what kind of an example is this setting for the safety standards in a country like Colombia?
Vineet, first of all, Colombia location is strategically very important. It is on the northwest of the South America continent. It connects basically South America with Central America and North America. Very rich in coal and oil and very close to US. And it has a defense ties with US. And it is basically ruled by the left government. And no doubt about it, the law and order situation of Colombia has been extremely poor. There are drug cartels which take place. There are also mafia which is operating in this thing. And mainly it has been ruled by the left. The Miguel Yubribe, he is a right-wing opposition senator, 39 years. And possibly he was the one who was campaigning against this drug cartel and all. And that's how possibly he's been a target. But certainly one thing is very clear, that Colombia is a very important country because it is considered a gateway to South America, and also it is very close to, in fact it is sitting on Caribbean Ocean as well as Pacific Ocean. Considering its location, it becomes much more important that whosoever controls the Colombia makes a difference, and it being basically a known NATO ally of US, it is very close to considered to be very NATO country. So certainly whatever will happen in Colombia will make an impact. How will US see this incident? Time will only tell. But certainly as far as Miguel Uribe is concerned, he is in a serious condition. Very rightly brought out by Ambassador that in case he is not evacuated, then possibly his life will be in danger. Now let's see how things unfold. But certainly one thing is there, that as far as Colombia is concerned, its law and order is extremely poor, and you find that the drug mafia rule the roost. But certainly one thing is very clear, that is very close to US, and that is something very strange. It is basically controlled by the left rather than the right, and he was the right senator who was fighting. He was a candidate for next year president election, and he is being targeted. So time will only tell how things unfold, but certainly it looks like the things are not looking too bright for Colombia. Vinny.
Sumit Peer also joins us on the program. Sumit, an incident like this only goes on to tell you and deeply instill in you the appreciation one would have for India, where regardless of a very astute political opposition and opposition clamor and narrative, there is no violence. There is obviously a lot of argument. There is a lot of bickering. There is a lot of back and forth. There is gali galoch, but there is never this kind of violence that Colombia and perhaps some of its other countries around it are used to. Sumit.
Vinny, thank you for having me on your show. Apologies, I got late. I somehow thought the show starts at 7. My mistake. Look, the issue is very simple. This country is ruled by drug lords and warlords, and the country is known for drug cartels, drug money, drug peddling, and it used to be the freedom of people like Pablo Escobar. Even if you go to 1980s, there were presidential candidates who were shot like this in broad daylight. So after about 35 years, we're back to 1980. It is a typical style of Colombia. You will find a 14-year-old minor. Usually for these crimes, they find minors. The miner will go and shoot somebody and he will be sent to a remand home. After 1 or 2 or 3 years, he will come out, he will be fined. Then eventually these are the people who end up to be the most hardened criminals. Question is not did the miner shoot or not, who sent the miner, where did the gun come from, why government could not protect him, why there was no bulletproof jacket, why there were no commandos, why was there no police protection, why was there nothing. You were letting this person to be a stink duck. You had 2 shots in the head and 1 shot somewhere else. Possibly of him getting a proper even medication or proper ilaj in Colombia is a big deal. In all probability, if this person passes away, you are sending a very, very clear message, a very, very political message that the current formation which is there, if you stand against them, you will be eliminated. That is the message they are trying to send. And let me remind you, sir, these are the same set of people whom Dr. Shashi Tharoor had to give a lot of, advice. They were misled. And they were equating the Operation Hindu. They were the people who were kind of saying, India and Pakistan both the lost. They lost their lives. Lost people in Operation Sindoor. They were in a way hyphenating India and Pakistan. They have been in a way supporting, not in a way, they have been directly supporting Pakistan in Operation Sindoor when we had to go to them and tell them what exactly happened. And when we dig deep into it, basically the Pakistani embassy had just started there. Before that, it was the Turkish embassy which was running the helm of affairs for them for Pakistan. So if you have the good utna baitna with people like Turkey, Pakistan and such nefarious elements, you will go and support Pakistan. So that means the government is controlled by somebody else. Though they have a very strategic tie-up with America, they have some special projects with America. All the American coffee comes from Colombia. There are a lot of these routes and this. There are a lot of Colombians who even migrated to America as illegal aliens. But the challenge here is this country seems to have somewhat lost its priorities. How could you side with Pakistan? How do you not know what is the difference between innocent life lost and a life killed by a terrorist? How can the life of a Manjunath be equal to a life of a terrorist whom we eliminated? So this is the fundamental thing. There's something fundamental wrong in this country. That is why even that day I was very furious. I was telling you, these people cannot think between drugs and, there's a very blurry line in that country between a cop dead and between a gangster dead. They will only count dead. And let's not forget the nefarious gangs which are run out of there. Their prisons are, the movies and documentaries about them. So this country is I don't have a word, I don't know what to say it, is a hellhole of these drug cartels, drug money, illicit killings and bloodbath. The society works and runs around that. In Colombia, it's very natural for a policeman to get killed in a broad daylight while doing his duty. It's very common, you stop a car, somebody might pull up a gun and shot you down. In such a situation, why was this candidate given no security? Why was nothing done around this? You were waiting for somebody to come and kill, and see the tyranny of it. If a 14-year-old can go and kill a presidential candidate, 14 saal ka bachcha, then what are we talking about here? Who's running the country? I mean, it's a free-for-all. And these people somehow have to learn from India. They have to learn from India how democracies are run, how people are given protection. Even if you look at, for that matter, even if you look at the United States of America, Vineet, President Trump had 2 assassination attempts on him. There was a third, which they said, nahi hua, whatever. Even if you count 2, there were 2 finite attempts on President Trump. We even really passed. I mean, what the hell is wrong with the West? And one day I saw a picture which amazed me. I saw Anthony Blinken landing in Iraq. I asked somebody in America, he could not answer me. Anthony Blinken landing in Iraq and he was wearing a bulletproof jacket over his suit and tie. Now, who is he? He's the Secretary of State of the United States of America. You have put $15 trillion in that Middle East and you are Secretary of State or the Foreign Minister needs to wear a bulletproof jacket while landing in Iraq. That is the plight of things. So if these are the things, that means these people either are complicit, they don't know what they are doing, or there is some vested interest which is letting things happen to send a political message to something. It's a big drawback for the political system of Colombia. The people have to wake up, and the present government, whoever is there, has to be accountable. If something happens to this man, the present president and his whole cabinet and the police chief and the defense minister will be accountable for that. Because if 14 years start having guns and shooting presidential candidates like this, very soon we are going to become a planet of apes. And the next we don't have to look for a Mars. The Mars will come down here. It will become a perpetual Mars. That is what is happening, Vineet. It is atrocious. This is not acceptable in a civilized world where we live in. I cannot fathom a thought. 14 saal ka bachcha comes with a gun and puts 2 bullets in a presidential candidate's hand. And it's all business as usual. Nothing happened. I mean, it doesn't seem to be anybody's business. It's okay. What the hell is happening? Well, it's a complete breakdown of the system of the country. And a United States of America, being a close ally, should look into it. Is still a Pablo Escobar who is brewing somewhere? Are still drug lords and mafias carrying out the things? Or is it there the crackdown on these illegals and the drug mafias happening around in the USA, on the Mexican border, on the Canadian borders. Fentanyl is getting stopped. Is that the frustration which is brewing, and unfortunately this guy had to pay the price? There are a lot of questions which are answered. With time we'll come to know what exactly happened, but what it looks on the face of it, Vineet, is not what meets the eye. There are a lot of complex stories behind it which need to be decoded and which need to be told to the world. We cannot have a situation, a 14-year-old kid gets a pistol, somebody, and walks away. I mean, then like that, we're finished. It's a
Right.
It's a planet of apes.
Let me rope in Manand Dwivedi into this conversation as well. Manand, Sumit is right to bring in Donald Trump's assassination bids as well. They of course failed, but the fact of the matter is, it's pretty easy in the United States as well to target and kill president. It's happened in the past. It happened with the JFK. It happened with Ronald Reagan, who survived. Abraham Lincoln, of course, was also another one who was killed by an assassin. The fact of the matter is that when you are in public life, it is very, very difficult to get away from situations like this. But do you think, considering the fact that this is something which is possible, candidates and heads of state can be targeted, governments have to do more, especially a government like Colombia?
I personally feel that anarchy, a want of a well-defined and a well-delineated political culture, political tradition, electoral reforms, and all the goody-goody icons of good governance that we associate with a full-fledged and prim and proper democracy. All these elements are very much absent in Colombia. Though on the paper we can say that it's a presidential democracy where the president of the nation state of Colombia is the head of the state also and is the head of the government also. Meaning he's also the titular head, the iconic head, and he's also the praxis head of democracy. So, all the paraphernalia, as far as the documentation and as far as the respite from other neighbors, and especially the great power and the great undertaker, United States of America, is concerned, the Colombians have the legitimacy. But I would like to take you back to the clarion call or the sloganeering which Pablo Escobar gave. He said, "Plamo do plato," wherein lead, what it meant was that, are we talking about lead or silver? That is, there has been a complete blackmail of the official authorities, the bureaucracy, the politicians, the security personnel, the army, and all other imaginable plenipotentiaries which one can associate with the establishment. And it was a clear-cut demarche given by Pablo Escobar that if you are going to be against us, if you are going to try to contain us, then you are going to get the lead. And if you are going to be party to us, then you are going to get the silver. That is moolah capital and the bribes. Now, talking about as far as Donald Trump is concerned, what we can realize here is that even nations, mature, secure, superpowers, and the hallowed countries like United States of America have faced it, wherein nobody can forget how in the Dallas depository incident, JFK, John F. Kennedy, traveling with Jacqueline Onassis Kennedy, was shot dead in an open motorcade. And we can look at the power of the drug lords, we can look at the power of the warlords and the mafia, the underlings and the gangsters, wherein even till date it remains, though Lee Harvey Oswald or somebody else who was the assassin, they have been arrested, that he was the person who killed him. But still, a lot of shadowy tales and conspiratorial anecdotes do the rounds and nobody comes to know about it. Now about Colombia. Colombia and some of the Latin American countries, they all are plagued by political instability, a kind of a demos dramaturgy, wherein the practical problems of the order of climate change, corruption, environmentalism, recruiting kids as soldiers, and other issues like migration, human rights abuses, they are very common and very rampant. Not in the same line as people blame India or other countries like US about human rights excesses, but these things do exist. There is no political culture. Everybody is in cahoots, is hand in glove.
You're absolutely right, Manan. We do have a paucity of time. I'm just going to go over the panel again once and take concluding thoughts from all our guests. We'll start with Ambassador Vora, of course, this is something which is reminiscent of things that have happened in the past, but nevertheless, your thoughts on what the other panelists have also said, combined with what you have gathered, sir.
Well, I'd say, sir, that every country in the world is a strategic country wherever it's located. So that doesn't impress me. But what is important is that is an independent country. It was a former Spanish colony. I've been there, as I speak the language. It's just that getting their house in order is going to take a long time. Latin America is not a very comfortable place to go to. Many of these countries have been through revolutions, etc. I believe, and I say this with full responsibility, that Latin America's biggest challenge has been that big bad bully to the north, which has wanted to treat it as its fiefdom. This is the Monroe Doctrine. That is my backyard. You guys mess around and I will finish you off. So Colombia used to send initially, I think they were sending marijuana, and then it became cocaine. The native Indians there have been using the cocoa plant for decades, for centuries, for millennia. But then it became cocaine, etc. And a lot of money was to do it. Ultimately, it's the drug trade that drives what is happening in Colombia. We can talk morality till the cows come home. Reality is reality, sir.
You're absolutely right, sir. General Sivaj?
We need no doubt it is the drug lords which rule the roost as far as Colombia is concerned. But unfortunately, the US is not at all bothered as what type of government is there, where it is tilted toward the left or toward the right. It is more interested in exploiting the resources of Colombia. It is very rich in coal, as well as gas, and also oil, as well as it is rich in other minerals. So it is just exploiting it. And today, as far as the Colombia is concerned, it is in shambles. It is controlled by the mafias. And though it is one of the country which is most diverse in the planet, it is rich in coffee culture. It hosts world's largest salsa festival, and it is home of the highest coastal mountain range. But having said so, it is very, very fragile. It is now basically controlled by people who are the richest people in Colombia, but they control the drugs, and they have got a close link with US. US is trying to make use of Colombia because it is very good in mineral resources, and it basically does a lot of trade with it. And today, what happening in Colombia, it looks like that the present regime does not want that the right-wing person should come in, because he was challenging the authority of the mafia and the drug lords. Possibly that's why he's been targeted. Vineet.
All right, Sumit Peer, quickly.
Vineet, the point here is very simple. This murder is a message. This murder is a political message. This murder is a message. We are back to 1980s. This murder is a message. There is an ecosystem here. If you try to disrupt the ecosystem, you will be eliminated. Who are the people behind it? What is the United States of America doing? Why Americans are not interfering? Or is it the pressure which has been built on drug cartels and drug lords from America into Mexico, and you are seeing the cause and effect theory? The cause is the pressure built in America, and the effect is somebody gets killed in Bogota. That is what it is. And honestly, when you look in modern times, it looks like a Pakistan. Look how Benazir was killed in Pakistan. Exactly the same kind of a killing in Colombia. These people were very close to Pakistan. They were supporting Pakistan. Look, when you compare anybody with Pakistan, it's the most demeaning thing you can ever do. I mean, I don't see a worse demeanor than that. Then on the top of that, look with India. Look how gracefully India conducts its security. How we are able to protect our VIPs. We have huge security challenges. We have some of the most highest vulnerable people in the world. In America, you can have a teenager by an AR-72 and put a bullet in this AR of Donald Trump with an AR-72 bullet. You have another person who almost assassinated him. You have somebody firing on him from his golf course. And look at India.
All right.
I mean,
Sumit, we have run out of time, but appreciate everybody who joined us. We seriously have to take a break now. Thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of this conversation. We take a short break on that note. We'll be right back.
मुरली जी के फादर का कैंसर का इलाज